All right, here we go. OverDrive, off and running. TSN 1050 on the TSN app, your home smart speaker, and up on TSN 4. Bryan Hayes, Dog, Jeff O'Neill, Jamie Noodles McLennan.
What's going on?
What's going on?
Old Rutger McGroarty. Hate to see it.
I saw that. I knew you would be happy about that.
I'm not happy about. I am not happy about any of that business. If you didn't know, the guy that demanded the trade from the Jets to sign with the Pens was sent down to the minors. Yeah. He had dreams and aspirations of playing in the big leagues, but maybe he's just not ready yet.
Well,
awful
he still
to see.
will. I'm sure he still will.
Hey, he's going to be a great young player. I just didn't like what he did, and he thought he was a big-timer, and now he's not so big-time, so he's going to go down and ride on a bus for a bit.
It is a weird turn of events that in Winnipeg it sounded as if it was, I got to play in the NHL or I'm out of here.
Yeah.
And now he's out of there. He goes to Pitt. He plays a few games, and they say, you're not
Or
ready,
he just
man.
didn't like Pittsburgh, or he just didn't like
Probably
Winnipeg.
didn't like Winnipeg. Yeah, that's what it was. Like, I would, you know what? I thought he was coached up. You know, he was coached up in his media to go, hey, you know what? I was transparent with him. It didn't work out. But bottom line is, the kid didn't want to be in Winnipeg.
Noodles, then he followed it up with, but I got a ton of respect for those guys, the way they handled it.
You're right.
That one got me.
There was a layer of arrogance to it. I think that's probably what got to you. You know, when you got a kid that doesn't want to go there and kind of calls his shot or whatever, I didn't like it either. But you know what? I don't know if he's going to be a great player or not. Was it the other one? What was the kid who's in Anaheim that shunned Philadelphia?
Gauthier. That was in Philly where something happened behind the scenes. And again, that's an example of that wasn't, someone not wanting to be in Canada or anything. That was an American kid who didn't want to be in Philly and is now down in Anaheim. And that led to chaos. Like, that was a really wild story with the Keith Jones coming out and Danny Briere and then the agent responding. Like, that was a pretty significant fallout. And Philly thought they got screwed over. Right, and got pushed into that scenario. And I'm not sure how the Jets feel, but this is the loophole that comes with college players.
Yeah,
is they can just wait it out, and then they're free agents, and they can do wherever they want, and they can go wherever they want. And I guess I credit them because it is a loophole that a lot of these players have taken advantage of.
Look, Hayes, I got nothing against this kid, but the way I thought it was going to play out was we were going to watch this kid and he'd have 5 goals in the first 3 games, and I was going to say, man, like, Winnipeg, did they ever miss out, like, not being able to keep that guy? Right. I thought that's how the first month of Rutger McGroarty was going to play out. It might come back and bite them, but hey, just, you know what? It might be just a little bit, maybe you're a
little bit of humbling quickly into his NHL career.
There is. And I got to give the parents credit, like, Rutger and Cutter. Hey, like
great
that.
Names.
These names are, man.
Great names.
I could see them just with the sweaters on around the neck,
on the
walking
yacht,
in,
right? Somewhere in Hyannisport,
exactly.
Cruising around the Kennedy compound.
Exactly.
That's what it screams of.
That is just like, I love the names, honestly, and I'm sure both of them are going to be fantastic players. That being said, it's now they're trying to throw out some context to it. The plan was to put him in Wilkes-Barre. He just played
of course
so well,
that was the plan. That's always the plan. We're going to give you a few games and then we'll send you down. It's an interesting transaction. It's early in the year, and you've got a lot of young kids in the league.
Yeah.
That some of them are having an impact, and others, unsurprisingly, it's going to take a little bit more time. And I'm sure that's what's happening with McGroarty. I mean, he's still a highly touted young prospect that needs to grow into the pro game. And I have no doubt he'll play for Pittsburgh and probably later this year and more than likely have a great career. But, it's not easy to step in when you're young.
No.
And it's especially uneasy when you've gone through that transaction and now you're even new to Pittsburgh. You don't even know the Penguins that well. And I'm sure that's been a challenge for him. Yet you see other kids. I watched that Oilers game last night. It was a great game. It was a lot of fun to watch. That Mitchkov kid looks great.
Oh,
man.
my God. That kid's going to be a player.
He looks so good in Philly. He had 2 goals last night. He almost set up the winner in the third. I can't remember who he passed the puck to. but it was like a backhand, like backdoor pass.
By the way, how about this goal that he scores? How is that not goalie interference with what Edmonton's been going through?
Well,
come on. Give the Oilers a break, man.
They won in the end. They got the win in overtime.
They did, but I found that bizarre. It was like that ref honestly has the stones to say that's a legit goal. I said, you know what? All credit to you for doing that, man. That's a ballsy move.
Well, Zach Hyman had one call, or Bouchard had one called back because Hyman hits the glove, but the defenseman for Philly hits the blocker. And that's where it went on the blocker side. I would have challenged that. If I was Chris Knoblauch, I would have challenged that play. Because if you look at the overhead, there certainly is contact. Watch the glove right there, the little poke. But it's more the defenseman.
I hear you. I can't do another full day of breaking down goaltender interference. It's nauseating.
You know what? I was asked about it today. The goal on Skinner, the only knock I would have on the goalie, and you guys know I'm a hugger, is I thought that he actually moved his leg because he tried to grab.
Which one are you referencing? What are we talking about here?
Okay, so I'm going away from the Hyman goal or whatever. The goal against the Oilers the
Michkov one, where he pushed it in. That's what okay, I see what you mean.
I'll go with that one because I thought Stuart Skinner was too soft on that on the post there. Because he got poked and he moved his leg, and that's why I think they called it a goal.
That's what the whole problem is, Noodles. It's like one day one ref would say one thing, and then the next day it's just a gong show.
Yeah, and that's why it is tough to track. And, I thought Skinner, and what I've noticed from him is, like, he's a big boy. Couturier ran him over last night, but I thought that was Skinner's fault, personally. And I appreciate Stetcher fighting Couturier because Couturier's a lot bigger than him. And Stetcher stood in there and threw a couple good bombs. And Perry got in a fight with Farabee afterwards.
I think that helped spark them, too.
I think it did, too. I thought it was significant Stetcher doing that. And I think Perry stepping out saying, we got to get some life in this building. And it did. And I thought it was a real big spark. And it led to the Oilers tying the game up and eventually winning. But, Skinner, he hands the puck off to Stetcher. He could have got back in his net. He tried to hold his ground and block off Couturier. But then it looked like he was bracing for contact, and I think Couturier was like, well, if you're going to hit me, I got to be ready. Yeah. And then he buries him, and he drops like he got shot. And I'm like, what is going on here in Edmonton, man? It was a wild game last night.
I thought the same thing. Like, I thought he sold it a little bit. Mike Smith was 6'4", 230 shredded. He would drop sometimes. I'm like, oh, my God. Like,
come on.
You get touched back there.
Come on, man.
But it happens. You got to sell it sometimes.
Yep.
Was it a couple years ago? I think Matt Murray sold one behind the net in Jersey where it was like there was a little contact, and he's 6'4", 6'5", and
total phantom.
Listen, anytime you get touched outside of the crease, I think that's the thought process is you got to try and sell something.
Sure.
But I agree. He was in the lane. He knew contact was coming. He could have just moved his shoulder and let Couturier go
He leaned into Couturier.
He dropped it down.
Yeah, I think Couturier was like, well, I'm going to get smoked here. I got to be prepared for this hit.
I would have to fight the goalie if I knew the goalie leaned into it and then put on a circus after. Like, I wasn't the toughest guy, but I would fight the goalie.
You'd circle back and jump on the goalie while he was laying there.
You brought on this contact, and now you're going to act like that? No way, man.
Well, remember, who was it that came over and gave Barnaby a jab when he was down? I think it was Garth Snow or something. It's one of the great clips. You can find it on YouTube.
Oh, when Barney's acting dead on the ice and he gets up and destroys him?
Barnaby's acting like he got shot, and then Snow or someone comes over, jabs him. Barney gets up and loses his mind and starts throwing bombs
Joe,
at this guy.
Find that clip of Barney.
It's
going nuts.
It's so good.
We talk about goalie interactions, and we bring this one up all the time. Wasn't it Wendel that hit John Casey?
Yes.
But like with the punch.
The Coca-Bonk. That was a great call from Harry Neal.
Yeah, like that one.
Because Casey gave him a shot. Like, Wendel was coming across, minding his own business, and Casey smoked him with like an elbow, and Wendel kind of calibrated and said, you're not doing that to me, man. And he buried John Casey.
This is why the goalies shouldn't interact. Because
especially pick your spots. Matthew Barnaby and Wendell Clark, that's who you're going to try to mess with. Those guys will happily engage with you.
That's a no-fly zone. You just let those guys skate on by. That's no-fly zone. That's no talk zone. That's no anything.
Nothing.
You don't ever associate with those gentlemen.
The best part about it, we've talked about this in the past, is with that Casey on Clark, Domi's on the ice. Yeah. So all the Blues come in and they're like, oh my God, Wendel and Ty.
Yeah, what are we doing here?
What are we going to do? Fight for John Casey? Like, we're going to get destroyed. We got to go in and pretend like we're pissed off that Wendel did that.
That's when you hear a guy be like, everybody settle down here. Come on.
That's where a lot of, there's a lot of deal cutting at that point. It's like, okay, guys.
Like, other scrums is F you, I'll kill you, F this and F that. That one's, come on here, settle down here. What are we doing here?
There's a lot of hockey left. Come on,
what are we doing here? Come on, guys. Take it easy.
A lot of hockey here.
Yeah, like nothing to see here.
But anyway, we'll get to those clips. We'll have to roll them. The Barnaby one, the Wendel on Casey. We'll play those.
Oh, my God. There was,
we got Leafs Kings tonight. And the goaltending circus in the league right now is a wild thing, man.
Dude.
Because now Kemper's not going tonight. And I couldn't believe he got left in the other day for all 8 goals.
Man.
He got left in for all 8. I know. And I was talking to someone today watching the game, big Sens fan. He's like, I can't believe that they left Kemper in for all those.
Okay, they left him in, but did it hurt him? Like, is he physically hurt from that, or his feelings hurt? And he said,
I don't know. Like,
not playing tonight for L.A.
I was texting with Ray today, and I was just, we were back and forth on stuff because he did the game in Edmonton last night, and then he said, oh, geez, Kemper's not playing tonight. And, like, I had this rule. Like, a 6, you can live with 6 goals against. It's ugly, but it's still a number that is, you lost 6-3, 6-4, whatever. The minute it hits 7, that's a touchdown. Like, that changes something. Like, for me, it used to, like, I gave up a touchdown. Like, that hurts. It actually hurts. 8 is another number where it's like you should never, ever be in the net.
2-point conversion, man.
That's
You're
a
at a
2-point
conversion.
There was an opportunity the other afternoon, Monday afternoon, me calling that game. Now, Travis Green had pulled Anton Forsberg at 3-1 after the one-timer goal by Kempe. He didn't like what he saw. He tried to change the dynamic. The Sens scored 3 goals in like 4 minutes, like really quick ones. That was the time to put David Riddick in and go, okay, I'm going to change the dynamic of my team in L.A. They left him in. And, they hung an 8 on him. And now, maybe he tweaked something, whatever happened. He's not playing tonight. Now it's Big Save Dave, who hasn't played a game yet.
Guys, it's insane. Like, I have seen this so many times. And you can say what you want about a guy being left in. 8 goals, it's ugly. But he let him in. And they were crappy goals. Like, he was terrible in Ottawa. Good. It's like this guy doesn't have the stones to look at himself to say, you know what, I want to get back in the net in Toronto and be better than I was. Instead, it's, hurt, I'm not playing. It's insane. It's insane what some of these goalies think they're getting away with. If they think people like me and others don't know what the hell's going on, they're nuts because it's gross what they're doing. Sorry.
There's a lot of it in the league right now with goaltenders where it seems like it's a daily occurrence. What's the update here?
No kidding. You notice how Shesterkin's never hurt? Hellebuck never hurt? Never.
That's such a benefit. And it's not even like they're not playing like the old school Grant Fuhr 73 starts thing. That is now, you give me 55, you are a workhorse in the National Hockey League.
Yeah, but dude, we're not even in the same stratosphere as talking about a guy playing 55 or 75 games. We're talking about a guy who's dictating when he goes into the net because he doesn't like what happened the last game.
Well,
it's nonsense and it's trash.
There's a lot going on, man. Like with, again, the Allmark news, it sounds like he's okay, but he was skating on his own in Winnipeg. Joseph Wall's skating. We don't know when he's going to play. Like, this is just in Eastern Canada. Like, Kemper, Wall, Allmark, like this is just over the course of a couple of days in the province of Ontario. You have this happening with these goaltenders.
Grosses me out.
There's other stuff going on, elsewhere. Again, that's why I look at Skinner and, he gave up a few last night, but he's in there. Like, it's never debate. He's going to play.
I will say this, Brian. I didn't like his game early on, but I thought he made a couple good timely saves. And that's what good starting goaltenders do, is make the save you need. Because there wasn't, the Oilers clawed back into that game, and then they gave up a pretty good chance. It was from right to left, and he came across, and it was a one-timer. He made a good save right at the end of their 5-on-3 penalty kill there. He made a good save, and I was like, okay, that's the save they need. They gave up one, obviously, right after that. But he made a couple good saves at the right time. your starter has to give you some confidence. It's like, okay, that guy's going to play every night, and yeah, he's not going to be perfect. Although I watched a guy, like, I'm telling you, and again, it's early, but I told you guys in preseason, I like that Tampa team. Like,
they looked good last night.
I watched both their games. Now, the goalie makes the saves. He makes really good saves when they need him.
He's not he doesn't just pull the pin. He'll stay in for an 8-pack and be like, I'm going in next game and I'll show you.
Right. He plays every night. But he played well again last night. Like, he's God, if he's healthy, which he looks to be.
You know what he looks, Noodles? He looks so fresh and rested.
Yes, fresh. That's why I looked at that Tampa team. They all look kind of fresh and invigorated, and they've only played 2 games, so it's not much, but.
Well, he has worn the crown. Like, Hellebuck has popped up, and Shesterkin. The king of the last decade is Vasilevsky. Like, the best goalie of modern hockey is Vasilevsky, and what he did over those 3 or 4 year stretches, when they won 62 games or whatever it was and then lost to Columbus in the first round and then 3 straight cup finals, he was the most impactful player in the game.
Plus, he played in another one where that Bishop got hurt against Chicago, and he basically was Tampa's goalie in a 4th final.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. That was back in 13 or whatever it was.
Yeah,
that's how long he's been doing this. And, the flip side of that in Tampa is that Vancouver loses again, and Elias Pettersson's not really bringing much to the table. Again, it's early, but they're 0-1-2. They've lost a couple of times in overtime, but last night they lost 4-1.
Yeah.
Vancouver's kind of gone under the radar here. We've been talking a lot about Edmonton. Flip side, a lot about Calgary. They won again. They're 4-0, which is just an incredible story. Obviously, the Leafs are going to take up a lot of oxygen here. But the Canucks, without Demko and Pettersson still not putting up numbers, and, it comes at you pretty quick, man. You're starting on the road in the East. That's a tough way to start your season.
That Pettersson one is difficult to figure out, because you would think, after what he went through in the playoffs, and he's got the contract, the only thing left, and playing for Jimmy Rutherford for so long, I know he wouldn't, take to this lightly. Like, he'd be not happy about this. And I can imagine the conversation he would have with me would be like, what is it you're looking for? You got the money. You're playing with players. Like, what exactly is it? All you got to do is go out there and work your ass off. But he just seems like, I don't know, he seems like he can get pissy about everything, where it's just not going his way and it's pissy. Like, I thought about him early when I fell in love with the guy's game. He was just a worker that always had the puck, and he was making things happen. When you stop working, man, it doesn't look pretty on a lot of guys, no matter how talented you are.
He was phenomenal last year for the first 3 quarters of the season. He phenomenal.
Had 102 points 2 years ago. What was it? Close to 90, 89 points last year. Mm-hmm. Like,
But man, it tailed off.
That contract.
Well,
it's the contract, which is weird because.
But it's solved.
Well, exactly, and that's now. I don't think this is happening, and I think it's the worst indictment you can apply to a professional athlete or anyone in business. But if it's, hey, I got my money and now I can take my foot off the gas, that's what's terrifying. That's
insane,
what would be terrifying. And I don't think that's the case with Pettersson. I don't think that's the case with guys who have that kind of talent and engine and passion for the game. And everything I've read and heard about the guys, he's a hockey nerd like a lot of these guys who are superstars. And I have no doubt Pettersson will snap out of it and be a great player. But that's, you talking about Rutherford, like, that's the kind of stuff an owner would be asking. Like, that would trickle down. Wait a minute, I paid this guy how much money? Like, what's going on here? Like,
right.
does he need to have that kind of pushing him to be better? Is he too relaxed now? I mean, these are all the things they're going to be asking in Vancouver.
Yeah, and it's, you know what, you brought up Vancouver. You brought up Edmonton. Like, there's a handful of teams. We'll go down to Colorado. There's a handful of teams, and you could just go into the league and go, there's some star players who've come to play, and you can see it right now. There's some point totals, but you can see it in their game. And there's some other guys that haven't hit their game yet. Mm-hmm. McDavid and Draisaitl, they got points last night, but they did not look like the McDavid and Draisaitl. Throw in Hyman, RNH, Bouchard, Ekholm, like all of them. Like, they're still coming out of summer mode. To me, I don't know how you thought, Brian, looking at that.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
It's coming, but it's not there. Pedersen. You can go right through the league. So
Cale
some of these
Makar,
Cale
there's been a
Makar
number
calls
of guys.
himself out the other day. Like that's, to me, in the league, some of these top players are getting paid lots of money. They haven't had the start that they've wanted in the first week of the season, but they have to get going for their team success,
see,
too.
that's the bigger thing, Noodles, exactly. It doesn't matter if your team's 3-0. Like talk to Nashville. Stamkos has got, 1 point? They're losing. They got beat up last night by Seattle.
Nashville's getting pumped.
Like, they're getting pumped, and people are looking at Stammer being like, hey, man, you're supposed to be the guy that came here and, revitalizes everything, and Marchessault and Brady Shea, and Yossi hasn't had a great start offensively. And yet it's early. And here in Toronto, I could tell if the Leafs were 0-3 and Matthews didn't have a point, it would be a massive story. Yep. A massive story. What's up with this guy? Why can't he handle the heat of being captain? What all this kind of stuff would be coming up. Instead, they're 2-1. They should be 3-0. They've played well. All good. Your team can always put a shield up for you. Like, it can only last so long. But early in the season, team success paints over everything. It doesn't matter what you're doing individually. But
100%.
You start poorly, like Edmonton, Vancouver, Colorado, Nashville. It's like, what are these guys doing? We're making so much money.
Nothing worse than signing a ticket in a new town. Like you're the big gun coming in, and you start off trash. And you're just like, dude,
that's tough.
You're like, this is what I signed up for.
But
and
he's
you're
not a young guy, Stamkos.
Dude, I get it.
That's
I get
the thing,
it.
man.
But we're just talking about we deal with what we have. Okay, we're only talking about 3 games, but it's not supposed to look like that in 3 games.
100%.
It's supposed to be Marchessault ripping a couple homes, Stammer wins, and it's like, look what we've assembled here. Instead, they're having. Trust me, I've talked about this before the season started. It does not take long for things to get stressful and uncomfortable, and guys walking into the rink with non-smiles on their face, and it's just. It gets stressful is what it is very quickly.
Yeah.
Nashville's 0-3 and Stamkos does not have a point.
Yes.
So
you think he's laughing his ass off walking into the rink?
No,
Highly unlikely, man.
He's not at Tootsie's tonight, enjoying himself.
Maybe
That's not
he should
going to
be.
happen. Maybe
That's
he should
the
be.
thing.
You're right. Maybe the reverse needs to happen.
Go to little Tootsie's and play
Get
some
down
chicken
there.
fried, and away you go.
I like that plan.
Thing is you're right. Like, it's early, but it gets your attention in the negative side. Wins make everything go away. It's like, doesn't matter. We won. Mm-hmm. But if your team is losing and you are brought in, or you're the top of the pyramid making all the money, people look to you and go, what are we doing here? What's going on? So I think that's what needs to be solved with some of these teams and kind of get their act going. And there's the one thing is, it's just not one player. There's probably a 10-pack throughout the league. You can go, geez, that guy hasn't looked very good. And that
Speaking
guy,
of 10-packs, I started a year 10-pack, no goals.
You went 10 games in without a goal?
Yeah.
That's tough.
Doogie, try to find out how many I scored that year, but I started the season with a 10-pack goose egg,
That's
man.
tough because you
Dude,
have
and
your
I
stats
couldn't-
on the whiteboard, right? Like when
Dude,
you walk in the
that
room.
made me sensitive to struggling my whole career. Like, if I started out, I was like not the fastest out of the gate, but Nelson Emerson, when I was a young guy, always told me, he's like, you want to have a 30-goal season, you can't get off to a crappy goal start because it's just, you need to just put some away in the bank. But it always made me sensitive to kind of struggles because I would go big picture and be like, oh, man, is this going to be one of those years where I get like 7 goals and like I'm a 7-goal guy?
Yeah.
Like, who wants to be a 7-goal guy?
Nobody wants to be
Dude,
that.
that would get into my mind, and I'm like, God, I got to go home in the summer being a 7-goal guy, and it sucks, and that's loser stats, and
Right.
Yeah, but
stats are for losers. And
Losers are nerds.
Yes,
Nerds are losers.
exactly. That's
Numbers
where I
of
would
nerds.
go.
But by the end, you never had 7 goals, right? You'd be in your head early on, and then you'd end up with, what was your low, like 20-something? Like you were always
19, 18s, but it didn't stop the panic, though. It was almost like I had to panic, but because it showed myself that I cared. Because if I sloughed it off and was like, nah, screw it, I'm going to end up with 25, it was like that was the wrong approach for me.
Yeah.
But it's just stressful, man. Every day you wake up and you're thinking about the game. Am I going to get out of the slump? Am I going to score? What are my hands going to be like? How am I going to get this going? It's just like it gets your brain running, man. It's a great life, but it'll stress you the hell out.
I can imagine, man. And those stats, they're right in your face. You cannot get away from
Well,
it.
and nowadays everything is so hyper focused. Like, we get back then it was either on the news that night or it was in the paper the next day. That was it.
In the locker room, they'd have big stacks of all the league stats, right. And it was league guys said, I'm not looking at that, but you'd always see them sneak off into a bathroom stall.
They were all in the bathroom stall.
Oh,
exactly.
yeah.
Just walk in. But my point now is these guys open their phones. They, the parents are calling that, like, information is so instantaneous. People are talking about it. What's wrong with this? What's going on? They're breaking down your shots and not getting to position. Geez, this guy's not getting to position. He's slow. Like back then, you didn't hear any of that noise because it just wasn't as prevalent.
That's a good point about like parents. Like you're like dads in today's game can get the like full view of all of your shifts.
Instantaneous, that.
And be like, hey, I was watching, and what were you doing here? Let me send this clip to you. I'm going to text you.
Yeah.
What are you doing here?
Yeah.
Because, how annoying would that be?
Because your dad would see it on Twitter because some analyst on Twitter has broken it down and saying, what is this guy doing here? So he just cuts and pastes it and sends it to his son or whatever.
With just question mark. What are you doing?
I would call my parents. I remember, I'd call them the next day, but how'd the game go? Who won? They would check it. To check it. I'm like, yeah, it was pretty good. We won 5-2 or whatever. Felt pretty good. Okay. How's your brother? That was it. It wasn't like the information is so much now. I don't know how I would handle it personally because I think these guys you have to have a certain thought process going about it.
It is a different way to live, man.
It really is.
JP just gave me the awful news. 98-99, 11 games to start the season, no goals, ended with 16.
Ooh.
Trash, dude.
That was a thin season.
You were kind of a veteran at that point. That was your fourth season?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what 11 games will do for you.
That's right,
That probably cost me a 25-goal season.
That's right. You pot a couple in before that, all of a sudden, you're pushing 20. Yeah, it happens quick, man. It happens quick. And what did Doogie said you had 31 points that year. So 16 goals, 15
Doogie, you didn't need...
How many games? Did he play a full season?
75 games.
Doogie, do you think it was necessary to blurt out I had 31 points?
That was the dead puck era. Dead puck era.
You're damn right it was.
You were probably really top 30 in points that year, league-wide. It was tough to break through, man. That left wing lock and neutral zone was a mess. It was tough. Yeah. All right, role play level of concern in about an hour. Scott Hartnell coming up. We have the Barnaby clip we'll play. We'll play the Wendel clip. I had an emoji malfunction today. I got to stop doing this. I'm too old for it. It's tough.
You want to give a thumbs up and you give the middle finger? It's a tough one.
It's almost precisely what happened. I'll tell you more about that. And our best bets coming up on Leafs Kings tonight. Overdrive continues, TSN 1050 and on TSN 4.
Need the crack staff behind the glass to maybe lay off some things. Joe from the Bridge texting to the group chat. First 4 years in the league. 8 goals, 14, 19, 16. Joe from the Bridge, slow your roll.
Yeah,
although nowadays I'm a $6 million guy.
Yeah, that's right.
19, absolutely.
19, plays with some physicality, good team guy, good guy in the room. You're getting an 8-year deal.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's an 8-year. Those are my first 4 years, I'm getting an 8-year deal at 5.5 with that.
Yeah, I think so. With a limited no trade, limited no move.
That's right.
You're right. That's $5 million a year times 6 for sure. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking, I don't know what Drake Batherson did, but Drake Batherson ended up with 28 last year. He's a nice player. Ended up 60-some points. But first couple years, that looks like same type of thing. That's $5 million a year. I think he made.
But Joe from the Bridge, thank you for coming clean and throwing the next text out. Then he said you went 25, 41, 31, 30.
That's why you'd pay 5.5 and get out in front of that, right?
Yeah,
that's actually smart management. Because if they tried to bridge you after you scored the 41, they'd have to pay you $9 million.
So the first 4 years,
teams, 11 the other.
So Hayes, you're the GM, and I put up those first 4 years. I sit in front of your office. What are you offering me?
Based on today's standards in the cap, today's salary cap?
Yes.
like I'm trying to win the negotiation, so I'd probably lowball you. I'd probably say I can do, 4 or 5 years at 4.5. I put that in front of you. Say we're a believer in you. We want to be committed to you. We want to be in business with Jeff O'Neill. That would be my initial offer.
I'd come back at you and say, give me. I'd come back at you and say I'd get Pierre LeBrun to tweet some stuff out, and then I'd come back at you and say I want 5 times 575.
Okay.
Yeah, it'd be too rich. And then you go, okay, well, do you want to play somewhere else?
Let me sit on it. Yeah, exactly.
That's where you start to go, you happy here? You happy with your line mates and stuff? Maybe we'll have to look somewhere else.
I could also tell you to stuff it and then go to the next team and get 31, 45, 30.
No, you got 25.
41.
You got 25. Then I'll 41. Shove that up your you-know-what. What do you think about that?
Well, here would be my response to that. A, you're restricted, so you don't have any leverage here. But you know what I would play? If you're playing the I'm calling Pierre LeBrun play, I would call Darren Dreger, and I would say, Dregs, you got to leak it out for me that nobody wants this guy.
And this guy's
can't
a bad
find
attitude
anyone
too.
to take this guy. I'm trying to trade him.
You start leaking stuff out. It's like,
dude, I'll barrel down your door. I'll knock down your door if you throw
late
that
for
one
practice. He's got. We heard he was paying the trainer to bring beer on the bus.
Horrible attitude.
Like all of these things.
Brings his golf clubs on the road. Can't get rid of him.
You start digging in on intangibles. That's what it is, and leaking them too.
Of course,
that's what it is.
Happily do that. That is always. It's got to be the toughest pill to swallow when the report comes out that the GM's trying to trade someone and there's no takers.
Actively.
Or they just, I like this one too, they've given the agent permission to figure out a deal.
Right. Go
ahead.
Do my job because I can't find anyone.
I think the Jets did that with one of their, the New York Jets did that with one of this guy that's been disgruntled the whole year. Who is that guy?
Not Rutger McGroarty. Is that who you're talking about?
No.
The New York Jets football team.
New York Jets. Oh, yeah, with, what's his name? Hassan Reddick.
Yeah, he's been at a stalemate the whole year, and they just said, seek whatever you want. Like, get something done.
That's right. Yeah,
That's
it's
tough.
like, what do you think? Well, his agent dropped him. Like, his agent
hired Drew Rosenhaus.
Yeah,
after
CAA
that.
was like, we're out. Like, we're not – you are such an idiot here for leaving this kind of money. We have been urging you to take the deal. Like, you got to get – he's getting fined. He's losing everything. And he's a really good player, but it's not like this guy's, the next Lawrence Taylor.
That guy's a dum-dum, and he's got dum-dums around him saying, keep doing that.
That's exactly it. Someone is in his corner.
An agency gasses you because they're so frustrated and they think you're that stupid. You're really stupid.
Yeah,
Yes.
like when the agent fires the player, there's something. Like that's really – I've seen players fire agents. But having an agent fire the player, they basically have said, like, we can't work with this guy. Like, we feel we're at the end of the rope here with this guy as far as getting him what we maximum can.
Right.
They're
because
like,
there's a limit. There's a limit.
Yeah,
like, you can't get every single dollar. You're not going to win every single negotiation. Yeah. And, ultimately it is his right to say I'm not going to do it. But to your point, if you have a major agency like CAA, this isn't some guy out of his van who's representing you who has no idea what he's doing. They have an incredible read on the marketplace.
Yes.
And they're telling him this is as much as you can get. This is it. We've taken it to the finish line, and you're killing your career here. And even then, he must have said, I'm not doing it, to the point where they quit. Because he could have. Yeah. They obviously challenged him and said, you got to do this or else we're out. And he hung up the phone. Because usually you would think that's when an athlete would say, wow, the agent's not messing around here. Like, this is legitimately all I can get. I'll take it. I got to get on the field. I got to start playing. And the holdout just continues. Yeah, and it's costing so much money. And, like, even the owner, Woody Johnson, with the Jets, who understandably is not the most trustworthy guy in the world or, the most sound owner in sports. I think that's an understatement. But even he was saying how, like, kind of flummoxed he is. He's like, I have never seen anything like this. Like, we're trying to get the guy in. We like him. We're willing to pay him certain amounts. But
dude, that guy doesn't have he has no that he is a massive problem in that team's struggles because how many I've never heard owners talk about like what he wants to see from the run game, the passing game, and I just wanted to you just want to say to him, you do not know what the hell you're talking about.
Yeah. And he's not a young guy. He's been in the league, for a number of years. So it's not like this is some, you were a 7th-round pick getting screwed over. It's, the Jets obviously wanted to keep him, wanted to pay him a lot of money, and it just hasn't worked out.
Yeah, that Woody Johnson, it's the Dave Naylor. You get an owner in a video room with 6 beers, you got serious problems, man.
Yeah.
You do, man. Because he was talking to the media yesterday. All the owners are together. That's what Jerry Jones was saying, right? Yesterday in his interview, radio in Dallas, he's like, I'm here with the 32 other owners or 31 other owners. And Woody Johnson was doing his media, and he said, thinking is overrated. Someone asked him about thinking stuff through, and he's like, I find thinking is overrated. It actually looks like you practiced that logic, Woody.
Yeah.
Because the New York Jets have been a mess for a long, long time, and I anticipate that will continue. All right, which one do you guys want to see? The Matthew Barnaby or the?
Let's see the Barnaby.
Yeah, the Barnaby, he has like the jackhammer going.
He gets up and starts throwing. Is there audio on this? Like, can we throw to the whole clip, JP, or what's the story here? No audio. Okay, then let's just play it and we'll talk about it for the listening audience here, because I don't remember the goalie he did it with. It was he's on there's Mayday right in the middle of everything too, man. Brad May's right in the middle of it.
There's Barney down.
Look
at that, just that little.
He gets up and starts pummeling him.
There's Ronnie Brindamore jumping on top of him.
But he was acting like he was shot. Oh, there's Trefilov comes down and giving it to Snow.
I think it was
old Trefilov. I don't even remember that name.
Andre Trefilov. He played. He played for the Calgary Flames.
But who's the Philly goalie? I can't see the
Garth
name.
Snow.
I thought it was Garth Snow. Who is it, Doogie? It is Garth Snow.
Yeah, that's Garth Snow. He's a big dude.
Now Garth Snow gets up. He's like, I got to redeem myself here.
He's giving him a wedgie.
And then Brindamore's stuck with Barnaby, who's losing his mind at that point.
That was so funny. The jackhammer. He was acting like he got shot, and just a little poke by Snow.
He's up, and that's Devontae Adams, right? Adams, bad hammy, can't go. Yeah, and then the second he gets traded, I'm good. I'll be playing.
That's crazy.
But yeah, Garth Snow. What was Garth Snow thinking though? I get it. Barnaby was a guy. I'm sure he was agitating him or doing whatever he was doing. But that's not a bear I would be poking.
No, Barnaby was tough.
He was tough, man.
For his size. He wasn't. He
fought everyone, Barnaby.
But he would fight anyone and everyone.
Everybody.
There were heavyweights in the league, physically. Tony Twist, I sat beside him for 3 years in St. Louis. He was 6 foot, 250 pounds, 250. And Barnaby, he was fighting guys like that, fighting bears.
He was fighting Proberts. And remember he went back to Buffalo and fought Rob Ray. I think he fought him twice in the same game.
Crazy.
He fought Domi a bunch. He fought everybody. I don't think Barnaby ever turned down anything, more or less. I'm sure he picked some spots based on the context of the game. Yeah. But more or less, if someone was saying, let's have a go, Barnaby was more than willing to do it. It was Garth Snow giving him a little tap, and Brad May was right in the. Brad May was so tough too, man. I saw him recently. Such a great guy, and he still looks like he could probably tune up a few guys. That's the amazing thing about those guys who were tough. We see Wendel all the time. Wendel still looks like he could beat the hell out of 95% of the league right now on skates. It's incredible.
I bet you he could. I actually feel like he could. I don't know why. I feel like Wendel would find a way to do it.
Yeah.
He is that farmer tough too, farmer strength.
Well, his back is still massive. You see Wendel walk around in a golf shirt.
Is this
John Casey?
Didn't he give him a little poke with the glove? There it is, the back of the
buries him.
Did he even get a penalty for that?
Yeah, someone threw their arm up. There's Domi right in the middle of it. It's just, and look at every Blues, hey, like you were saying, everyone settle down.
Settle down here, nothing to see here. Stefan Matteau's watch yourself there. Stop it.
Settle down. It's so true, though.
I love that. So good.
God.
Everyone just relax. Come on now.
It was.
Anyway. Yeah, those are good clips, man. Some of those old school, rabbit holes, that's a good shot he gave to John Casey.
Just a forearm shiver.
He buries him. Yeah, Casey, why would you throw your arm up on to Wendel Clark? What are you thinking? Wendel's just coming through the crease. Probably thinking of screening, and he's waiting for the play to develop, and you try to be a tough guy and protect yourself.
I think that's Murray Barron that grabbed him, too, and he was a pretty tough customer, but he didn't seem too interested in wanting any part of Wendel.
I remember doing something stupid. We were playing Arizona, or I guess Phoenix, in the playoffs, and Keith Tkachuk came sliding into me, and I got put in. Freersy had been pulled, and I was like, okay, I'm going to try and stir something up here. So Keith Tkachuk came sliding into me, and I kind of jumped and fell on him and gave him a cross check.
Yeah.
And he got up swinging, and Ricard Pearson was there, our Swedish defenseman, and he was just attacking Ricard. So I was like, okay, what do I do? I chased Robert Reichel around.
Yes.
I don't know. It's a video. It's so funny.
I love it, Robert Reichel.
I was trying to. Happy Boulin came down. I was trying to get to him, and I was just trying to stir something up. But it was Keith Tkachuk that came sliding into me. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to fall on him accidentally. And he was so pissed. He got up and was just tuning everybody up around. It was all my fault.
I love it.
Oh, I was so rattled about it.
That's the loose, the short fuse of guys like that. You touch them when you're not supposed to. They're so mad. So angry.
Yeah.
I think there was a Shanahan-Tkachuk play, actually, where Tkachuk, high-stick Shanahan. And he left, and he came back and, immediately just was chasing him. And Keith, I'm sure, was more than willing to accept.
Oh, yeah.
And
those guys.
His face was, all sliced up and everything. And Shanahan's out there just throwing bombs at Keith Tkachuk and vice versa. It's an incredible clip.
Yeah.
There's just some amazing stuff you could find still online or on YouTube. But anyway, all right, we'll come back. We've got Scott Hartnell. Hartnell was willing to go back in his day, for sure. Scott Hartnell was getting a number of tilts. He'll join us in about 20 minutes. Role play level of concern still to come. We got Game 3 Mets-Phillies tonight. The Yankees with a big one last night. Aaron Judge, he was feeling a bit disrespected, and he did something to the Guardians last night. Yes, big time. We'll get into that and more still to come. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app.
Hazy, you said in your first initial offer to me you would give me what? 4 times 425?
Something like that. Yeah, around there. 4 by
5
4 and a half.
5
years by 4 and a half.
Okay, so my counter was 5 times 575. How do you react to that when you get that in the mail?
I'll split the difference with that. Now, you're not getting a signing bonus, and there's no trade, no movement. That's all.
Hey, what if I say this? Everyone else gets it.
Well, that is true. That has generally been my curse as a manager. I capitulate in the end and give everyone everything they want. You got it. You got everything you want. How about this? I'll tack on an extra $1 million just for you. All right? 6.75 for 6 years.
Come on.
Negotiating against myself?
I think we would have settled at 5.
I think we'd settle.
I would have fought for something with a 4 in it. 4.85. 4.85.
Out of principle.
And I would have taken it.
Well, of course you would have, because it would have been a fair deal at that point.
Exactly.
But at that point, and we would have got value, because in those couple years when you did hit 25 and then went to 31 and 40 and whatever, 41.
I'm locked up.
You're locked up in those
great
years.
Value at
and
that
we got
price.
Great value for you.
Great value at that price. So how about the Guardians last night walking Juan Soto to get to Aaron Judge, which is dangerous, and then Judge naturally picks up a sac fly, and then he hits a home, a bomb in the 7th last night. I just feel I understand the reasoning behind it. Soto and Judge have been so good. They've been so dominant. And the fact is, Judge has not been good in the playoffs.
Yes.
That is just factual. We talked about it yesterday with Cameron Maben. He has not been good. And Maben broke it down, I thought, brilliantly, just saying he's overplaying his hand. He's on edge. He's trying to make something happen that's not there. And maybe they just needed the Guardians to say, we'll take Soto, man. We'd rather face you than anyone else, including Juan Soto. And Judge made them pay last night, and I wonder if that's going to lead to destruction in Cleveland.
Maybe, but I think Frank Coeur said it best. He said, this looks crazy, but it's the right play right now.
Because of the way Judge had been playing.
Exactly. It's as stupid as this sounds. And some of his teammates were going nuts in the dugout. They're like, no way you're doing this. The disrespect. But at that particular time, that was the right play. And he flied out. So how could you argue with it?
Well, no, but the bases were loaded. It was
the
like
sack fly.
Yeah, I mean, you get a scenario like that where Judge is like, you're telling me I just got to make some contact here and I'm going to, bring something in, and that's precisely what he did. And, again, I understand the reasoning. And, like, it's pick your poison. Aaron Judge or Juan Soto, like, good luck either way. You're in big, big trouble in terms of, facing either guy. But the fact that he hit that home run, basically to dead center last night in the 7th inning, and that building was going nuts for him last night. It's like, watch yourself, because now you're down 2-0, and maybe you woke up a sleeping giant. I don't like Cleveland's chances here, man. I didn't
but
like
do you
them
think
anyway,
that was part of the thought process into the decision making? Wow, if we do this, we might piss off Judge.
Of course not. Clearly not.
No.
Clearly it was strategic, and the strategy does make sense based on what you're saying. But again, it's, numbers are nerds, nerds are for losers, losers are stats, whatever it is. And they didn't look at Aaron Judge. They looked at his stat line.
Therefore, stats are losers.
That's right. And that's a very dangerous game to look at it and say, you know what, I'd rather face this cat because he's not doing anything at the plate.
In that game, stats are not losers.
No.
Generally, they're not in baseball, unfortunately. It's right in your face, and you can't avoid it.
They woke him up now, and now he's going to be on fire. You watch.
Yep. We'll see. All right, hour 2 coming up. Scott Hartnell, role play level of concern. Leafs Kings tonight. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4.